We're in power. We've record investment in defence and security. I'm proud of this Labour government, and any Labour Prime Minister would stand behind this plan.
We can count, the generals can count, the Kremlin can count. His plan doesn't add up.
I absolutely have the assurance that as Prime Minister, Andy Burnham will make sure that we've got the investment coming into defence.
I just wondered what you made of that investment and whether you see it as, the right way to spend money in the future.
I think anybody still spending money on weapons or to using weapons is directly or indirectly against humanity.
It's all down to Andy Burnham to do the sums now after Keir Starmer drew up a defence investment plan with a hole in. His successor as PM will have to find billions more. Kemi Badenoch wasted no time in pointing this out at today's PMQs.
Even the limited plan that he has announced has completely unravelled because he hasn't found the money to pay for it. It is £5 billion short. We all know that he is leaving this mess to his successor. So can he confirm that the member for Makerfield has agreed to fund the shortfall?
To be honest, the PM couldn't really answer that. Dan Jarvis, the current Defence Secretary, and possibly the next one too, come to that, had a better stab at it.
I absolutely have the assurance that as Prime Minister, Andy Burnham will make sure that we've got the investment coming into defence. That's good for our nation, good for our national security, but it's also good for economic prosperity.
All of this will now be worked out in the next Treasury spending review due next year. That's 20 years since the last spending review Andy Burnham was involved in when he was Chief Secretary to the Treasury. A blast from the past, this, in the Gordon Brown administration. Then the MOD budget was just over £30 billion. Now it's nearer 70. Still, you'd hope, given his Treasury experience, he can do the math, even though he was only there for 6 months. By the way, that spending review is going to be brutal. Here's Minister Martin McCluskey, whose Energy Department has already been told to save billions.
You know, it's not a surprise that this is where it's come from. It's a difficult decision. I support these decisions because ultimately this is about creating a secure United Kingdom that's properly defended and faces the challenges that we face at the moment.
So you're not disappointed, personally?
Look, there's always... I wouldn't call them difficult decisions if there wasn't an element of disappointment, but I know why these decisions need to be made. I know that we need to prioritise defence and making sure that our country is properly defended.
Yeah. With all the jaw about war, there are few dissenting voices, but legendary artist and activist Ai Weiwei is one. His latest exhibition features a history of bombs made from toy bricks. He tells me political leaders need to think twice about committing yet more to bombs and bullets.
I think anybody still spending money on weapons or to using weapons is directly or indirectly against humanity. We should have a very clear, solid belief all those bombs are designed to destroy. Nuclear bombs is going to be used. So this is put a great potential of dangers to humanity.
The defence plan published yesterday will see a cool £63 billion spent on nuclear weaponry. You could see that as a danger to humanity. On the other hand, the failure to spend those billions could see humanity imperilled by Russia or China instead. Well, before all that, we're starting the show with breaking news tonight because in the last few moments, England have progressed through to the last 16 of the World Cup after a huge scare. They've come from 1-0 down to beat DR Congo 2-1 in Atlanta. Well, let's go to our sports correspondent, Rob Harris. Rob, they made us sweat, right?
This was a very, very difficult day for England. It looked like they were crashing out of this World Cup after conceding after just 7 minutes to DR Congo. It took until the 75th minute for them to rescue things with Harry Kane heading in. How often does the captain bail out England? And then, just when we thought we were going to be heading to a very agonising extra time, Kane struck again. Right in the 86th minute to secure a 2-1 win, and for England, they progress out of the knockout phase round of 32. They're into the round of 16. They'll be playing the co-host Mexico in Mexico City this weekend. But it really took the brilliance of Harry Kane. He's now got 13 goals in his World Cup history, more than Pele, and he's got over 70 goals for England and Bayern Munich this season. To think some called Harry Kane a one-season wonder in 2014-15 for Tottenham Hotspur. Well, he's been so reliant for England so often. Now England are through. Going to speak to some of the fans who thought they might have been going home. You're live on Sky News. Did you think you were going out?
No, never in doubt. I must admit, we tested our patience, but the resilience far outweighed any kind of panic. I think the chances we had, one after the other, we peppered their goal. And like you say, as usual, Harry Kane comes and rescues the day, doesn't he? Absolutely brilliant. What
was that moment like when he headed in the equaliser?
Oh, fantastic. We needed that because the crowd was getting a little bit nervous around the ground. You could sense it. But once the first goal, to be fair, we had enough chances first half, and fair play to their goalkeeper, pulled off 4 or 5 tremendous saves. But I think we deserved the win in the end, really.
There were really incredible saves from the Congo goalkeeper, and Brian Sapenga's opener for DR Congo, absolutely sensational finish. What was going through your head at that moment? Did you start thinking about booing?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I'm always behind the team, 100%. And we've obviously supported the team. We're there at every single game. We'll be there at the final, up the England.
Well, you're really confident in 2 weeks. You've been out here so far throughout?
Yeah.
So many people were thinking back home. This is now the 4th game for England here. It's very, very costly, the tickets as well. Can you put a price on how much all this support in England is?
Priceless. Making memories with my dad. This is what we've had our hearts set on for years now. So, yeah, unbelievable.
And what do you think this England can achieve? What do you want to change in Mexico City? Surely they can't play like this again.
No. Probably the midfield. We need somebody with a bit of dynamism in the centre of midfield. We just seem lacking in there. I don't know. Just probably play Eze from the start. I don't know.
And some of those defensive issues as well, the injury list and the shakiness at the start, that allowed Sapenga that space to get through after 7 minutes to be able to beat Jordan Pickford.
Yeah, exactly. I think, to be fair, defensively we are a little bit rickety, but I think our attacking power, I think we need to focus more on the flair we've got, like up the wings, you know. We've got so many opportunities to go and create space, and obviously we've got Harry Kane, plus other attacking options, you know. It's not a single point of failure. I think we've got so much credit and quality within the team, and I believe in Tuchel.
Do you believe in Tuchel?
Oh, exactly. But next game in Mexico, I really can't wait for that. In the Azteca, famous old stadium, and it's going to be tough to beat the Mexicans in their own backyard, but hopefully we can do it.
And to think Germany are out, the Netherlands are out, but England are still in it.
And Scotland are out.
Their fans maybe were slightly better than some of the England fans at times in terms of the
shirts back now,
the plaudits across the country, but your journey does continue on to Mexico City.
It's a results business. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us live on Sky News. Let's go and try and have a chat to some more fans as they leave the stadium. What you get a sense of is quite a lot of Americans are supporting England as well. The US play later on today in their round of 32 match, but given the popularity of the Premier League here, that's why so many locals here in Georgia are supporting England as well. I've got to say, it is really, really hot out here in Atlanta, but inside the stadium where I've just come from, it's cool and air conditioned. So this was a day England had no excuses, but it was all going against them. We were starting to reflect on potential embarrassments, where this ranked over the years in terms of England humiliations, but ultimately they pulled it off. They came through, and I'm thinking back to being in Switzerland last summer following the Lionesses as well, how often Serena Wiegmann's side looked down and out, but they pulled it back, and ultimately they went on to win the trophy. England trying to reach their first World Cup final since 1966 in the men's game, since that moment of glory. I think it might well be the case, this is a stat, that England actually haven't won a knockout game at a World Cup, having fallen behind first, since 1966 when they beat West Germany in that final until now. So maybe the omens are good. We're going to try and have a chat with some of the fans that are leaving. We see a lot of American fans here. Let's see, you're live on Sky News.
I cannot see you for the life of
How was it for you?
It was so fun.
Yeah. You supporting England and the US?
Yes.
Well, enjoy. Let's go and try and have a chat to some fans. You're live on Sky News. Do you want to have a word? Well, you're wearing a Tottenham hat, and Harry Kane to the rescue.
Harry Kane. Yeah, it was a massive result. I mean,
amazing.
I couldn't believe it. I think, especially the whole match, I thought the keeper Congo was playing really well, making a lot of top saves. So I thought it was
Thomas Tuchel. I'm telling you, it's coming home. Harry Kane turned it up a notch. The
team will follow him. What a leader.
What about him? In his 30s, he's scored over 70 goals now this season for Bayern Munich and for England, and he just keeps on delivering.
He's a machine. There's no end to his talent. He's going to give us more and more goals, and then when we hold that World Cup up, lads, we're going to say England's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming home.
Well, enjoy the rest of your journey.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Well, England's journey continues. They're through to the round of 16. They'll play Mexico in Mexico City this weekend. But how close they came to going out before coming from behind to beat DR Congo 2-1, thanks to the double from Harry Kane.
Rob, thanks so much. And actually, the Prime Minister echoing some of those fans that you just spoke to. He's just put out a tweet on X saying it might actually be coming home. So excitement from the Prime Minister there, just as much as those fans you've been speaking to. Well, let's head next to our reporter, Graham Stothart, who's at a fan park in Vauxhall. Graham, sense of euphoria there, I assume?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the atmosphere was very different at half-time, let me tell you that. But now people are singing, there's confetti cannons going off. People are, well, wearing Harry Kane masks unless he's made his way off the pitch and got to us now. You can see here people just having an absolutely whale of a time. I mean, for so much of the game, people were just feeling a little bit, I'd say down-tempo might be a good phrase, but now you can see a shot of adrenaline into the arm there. Let's see how some people are feeling. Sir, how are you feeling?
Absolutely ecstatic. We got one in the
Amazing! Come on, England! We need words, lad. We need sentences. We need words. How are you feeling?
Just unbelievable. What a day. What a day to be alive. Harry Kane, what a man. What a servant to England. Never gave up. Even when we didn't believe it, they did. Amazing. Amazing. Unbelievable. Thank you very much.
And were you singing It's Coming Home at the end?
Absolutely. Probably a bit too early, but we're English, is what we do. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's coming up. Oh, it's coming.
There you go. Well, you heard it here first. I guess it seems to be coming home. He guessed it'd be 2-1, he says.
I said before the camera, before the match started, it's going to be 2-1. After the match.
Well done. You're a sidekick, my friend. You're a sidekick. Let's see if we can get some Harry Kane. Feeling after the game.
How you doing? You know, 2 goals. What can I say? I made it to the pub straight after the game to support with my people here. You know, it was a tough match. They went up early, but it's about resilience over here. It's about resilience. We got 1, we got 2, we're through to the round of 16. Come on, England. Come on.
Thank you. Well done, mate. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
So many people here want to talk to us, but I think we should... one more here. How are you feeling, sir?
I just want to say Harry Kane is the best football player in the world, and England's going to win the World Cup. Come on.
There you go. England are going to win the World Cup. I'm a pretty reliable source as well, I reckon.
Let's hope that prediction holds. Thanks so much for that.
It's coming home.
Well, I'm going to bring you down to earth now just for a moment because we're going to go back to the Defence Investment Plan. Sorry about that. From the euphoria of that fan zone there, we're going to go back to the Defence Investment Plan, which dominated Prime Minister's questions, the penultimate outing for Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. So let's look at what happened there. PMQ's had a slightly valedictory air about it. The PM looking to burnish his legacy, but then everyone around him looking to the future. So Kemi Badenoch even addressed some questions to the member for Makerfield, who is, of course, Andy Burnham, the, we assume, incoming Prime Minister. Now, ministers are obsessing about who he's going to put in his cabinet, and not least who's going to fill that defence black hole. So hotly tipped is Wes Streeting, the former Health Secretary. But then there's also questions about whether John Healey, the old Defence Secretary, who walked out over the funding problem, could he come back and take his old job back? But I think the really hot money is on Dan Jarvis, the current Defence Secretary, staying where he is. But women in the Labour Party are saying that might leave Andy Burnham with a bit of a woman problem. They want half the jobs in government filled by women and some of the key great offices of state as well. And if Ed Miliband becomes Chancellor and his brother David comes back to be Foreign Secretary, 2 big ifs there, but it could happen, then they worry about other jobs, other key offices of state and what might happen to them. So Andy Burnham has got some very big decisions to make and not just on defence spending. Well, let's bring in our political correspondent, Rob Powell. So, Rob, I mean, this was all before, obviously, the football kicked off, but it was pretty knockabout in the Commons, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually. A lot of incoming fire for Sir Keir Starmer, but he sort of had quite a kind of weird reaction, I guess, and I think it speaks to the sort of weird nether region of politics that we're existing in at the moment, that he almost seemed quite carefree, like very punchy, quite boisterous in how he reacted to it. But then again, I guess all of these thorny questions coming from the Tories on defence are going to be problems not for him in the weeks, months and years ahead, but for Andy Burnham. And I think he does find himself, if it is to be Andy Burnham, of course, who takes over in a few weeks' time, I think he will find himself in something of a pickle when it comes to defence. It's not just that £5 billion that is basically unaccounted for in the defence investment plan that he has been told by the current government to go and figure out how you're going to pay for that in the next budget. Today, the suggestion from the Prime Minister was that there would be enough headroom, enough wriggle room, basically, that they left in the last budget to fund it from that. You wonder, though, whether Andy Burnham might be eyeing up that headroom for other domestic priorities that he wants to deliver on. I don't think it is just that, though. When you look through where the other savings in the Defence Investment Plan come from, they're not kind of hammered down, nailed down, guaranteed bits of money and pots of cash. You've got things like asset sales and efficiency savings in there, things that aren't necessarily hammered out at the moment and will probably be picked apart when Andy Burnham is in office and may have political ramifications as well. And then there is the broader picture that there is no route map in this defence investment plan to get to 3%. That's been pushed off and made a problem for the next Prime Minister as well. And there is certainly no route map either to 3.5%, the NATO target by 2035. So it's big money that will need to be found. And I think the kind of essay question is, how will Andy Burnham, if it is, probably will be, deal with that when he is in number 10. He's not someone that really has a track record of dealing with foreign affairs and defence politics. His allies, freely admit that part of the point of an Andy Burnham premiership would be to focus more on the nuts and bolts, nitty-gritty domestic issues affecting everybody's lives. Of course, the argument in favour of defence is that that is a nitty-gritty domestic issue that affects everyone's life. He has suggested that some of the money could come from perhaps welfare savings, but look, you talk to even some of those involved in looking for those welfare savings now within government, and they say that's not money that's going to come available anytime soon. That's not going to be billions of quid in 26, 27 or 27, 28 to plug defence gaps. So that might be something that really only starts to bear fruit in the next Parliament, in the 2030 to 35 stretch, when they're trying to get up to that 3.5%. So, yes, all of those incredibly thorny questions landing on Andy Burnham's desk, probably, and alongside lots of other priorities that he will want to deliver on. And I don't think anyone thinks that the political questions and the political tension around defence has gone away because of the announcements this week.
Rob, thanks very much. Well, of course, energy was among the areas specifically mentioned by the PM where cuts had to be found to pay for defence spending. So a little earlier, I spoke to the Energy Minister, Martin McCluskey. Martin McCluskey, energy bills up £281 on average. The government's going to have to do more to help, aren't they?
It's a really unwelcome rise, Cathy, and I think for families around the country who'll be watching this tonight, I think everyone will be concerned about this. But there's a couple of things we've already done. So the Warm Homes discount, which is the £150 discount, we extended that to 6 million households over last winter. That will continue into this winter for those most vulnerable households.
But obviously wiped out by this increase.
But also the £150 that we took out of cost for all bills is still baked into this increase. We're looking at contingencies across the whole range of options that for the winter. I think it's important to remember, while these increases are significant, obviously people use less gas in the summer period. That's why we're preparing contingencies for the autumn and the winter, and keeping everything on the table so that when we know what the prices are later in the year, we'll be prepared to make decisions.
But you accept that people are struggling. You know,
of course.
The debts to energy suppliers tells the story, doesn't it? So Andy Burnham's been saying that people need a bit extra now. So he's going to have to act before the autumn, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's what the work that we are doing at the moment in the department that we've been doing across government over the last few months is preparing for all eventualities. So when Andy Burnham, if it's Andy Burnham who becomes Prime Minister on the 20th of July, those options will be available to him. We've done all of that work to prepare to make sure that we're able to deliver, you know, whatever support might be required.
It's harder, isn't it, to find money to ease the cost of living because of this nearly £5 billion gap in the defence spending plans. I mean, you're all being asked to fill the hole on that, aren't you?
There's obviously difficult decisions that have to be made in order to protect our national security, and that's been something we've been very clear about. We're being, you know, all government departments are being asked to contribute to the Defence Investment Plan, and, you know, DESNZ is one of those departments that will also do that. But
yeah, £2 billion. When did you know about that?
But it doesn't take away from the fact that we are totally focused on our clean power mission. Remember, you know, this is I'm not trying to pretend that it's not. These efficiencies aren't significant. Of course they are, but, you know, this is what we've got to do in order to make sure that we maintain our defence of this country. But we are still going to be focused on those clean power targets by 2030, and I think it's important.
Right, so the clean power targets are not derailed by the fact you've got to find £2 billion.
No, and actually the clean power targets are central to that security argument as well. You know, everything that we've seen over the last 5 years, Russia, Ukraine, Iran, these are you know, instances of where our security is deeply linked to our energy security as well. So that's why we're so focused on this, because if we can get clean power, you know, by 2030, renewables on the system, we're less reliant on fossil fuels, we're less reliant on countries, for example, in the Middle East, and ultimately it gives consumers and this country a more stable price because we control the price as well as controlling the supply.
When did you know you had to cut £2 billion from your budget?
Look, you know, these discussions have been going on for a number of weeks.
No, but when did you know?
Many of the discussions have been happening at a level above me, Cathy, as you would expect.
Right.
A lot of these discussions
know about the $2 billion?
We've had these discussions over the course of the last few weeks, but, you know, it's been clear for quite some time that we were going to need to make difficult decisions because of the need to protect our country. We're facing some of the most difficult situations internationally and domestically that we faced in a generation, and so it's been quite clear for some time that we're going to need to make those decisions.
Wait, but I'm just asking you when you knew personally about the $2 billion.
I'm not going to get into the
Did you know before
the details,
this week?
Of course, but I'm not going to get into the details of who said what when, and, you know, there obviously is a process across government to come up with the Defence Investment Plan, the funding of the Defence Investment Plan. And what
did you think, though, when you did find out, whenever it was last week or whenever it was?
Look, what I said, I'm very clear on this, is that we all knew for a very long time that there was going to need to be difficult decisions made. And I think anyone who comes into politics at this very particular point in time when we're facing some of these significant threats internationally knows that defence is going to play a massive role in what we're doing. And, you know, and so we've known for quite some time that that's going to be required, and I'm glad that we've come to a conclusion with the Defence Investment Plan.
So if you've known for quite some time, you know, that you're going to have to make cuts, where's that money coming from, that
So
$2 billion?
we're going to set out in the autumn, in terms of the department spending, we will set out in the autumn exactly where that's coming from and how we're going to deal with it. So you still don't know where that... You've got no idea where it's coming from? We're going to set that out in the autumn in terms of the detailed spending plans. We know what the headline figures are, but that will come in the autumn. And I think that's right, because we obviously want to take time to look at where can we make efficiencies within our programmes, where can we maybe reprogramme. It's not just about stopping things, it's also looking at how we can do things maybe more efficiently than we were before.
Your boss, Ed Miliband, has had a bit of a rocky relationship recently with Keir Starmer, you know, telling him to resign and so on. Do you think this is Keir Starmer's revenge?
No, I don't think that at all. I think what Keir Starmer has done is he's made decisions in the national interest about making sure that we have a robust national security policy and a proper defence investment plan that funds what we set out last year. And
so you support the cuts?
And one of the I think we've got to remember the two departments that have maybe taken us more of a significant impact from this are Energy, my department, and Transport. And it's obvious that was where it was going to come from, because they are two departments with large capital budgets, and we obviously need capital investment in order to fund the Defence Investment Plan. So, you know, it's not a surprise that this is where it's come from. It's a difficult decision. I support these decisions because ultimately this is about creating a secure United Kingdom that's properly defended and faces the challenges that we face at the moment.
Yeah, so you're not disappointed personally?
Look, you know, there's always... I wouldn't call them difficult decisions if there wasn't an element of disappointment, but I know why these decisions need to be made. I know that we need to prioritise defence and making sure that our country is properly defended.
Yeah. And it won't derail your green power.
Not for clean power by 2030 is still this government's target.
And it'll be Andy Burnham's target.
Yes, because as I said, it's intrinsically linked. Defence and energy security are intrinsically linked, and we need to take ourselves off that roller coaster of fossil fuels, not just because it's better for affordability in the long term, but also because it means we're less reliant on countries that are often run by dictators, petro states. You know, we need to move away to a system that is one that we control, where we control the supply and also control the price.
And you're confident that that argument has been won with Andy Burnham?
Yes, yeah.
Martin McCluskey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's bring in tonight's dynamic duo, Labour peer and former Shadow Secretary for Culture, Media and Sport, Baroness Thangam Debonair, and former Conservative Education Secretary, Gillian Keegan. We're going to talk about sport later, of course, because, you know, it's a cheery subject tonight, at least. But let's talk about this plan with a hole in it, the defence plan. I mean, it's problematic, isn't it? It's sort of unravelled quicker than a budget.
Well, I think the Minister put up a good defence there of saying that, you know, you make the plan and then you come to the budget, and we're still in the early stages of the first sift of ideas for the budget. I'm sure that whoever turns out to be Chancellor on July the 21st or whatever it is will get straight on it. I mean, that will be obviously a great priority. I think it is important that we do try and increase defence spending, because security of the realm is the government's literally the only duty we have.
At the expense of Ed Miliband. You're content with that?
Well, I think it's difficult to say. I mean, you're going to be so annoyed with me tonight.
It's not just Ed. It's
just like
a whole load of people who've had
all
to
these
pitch
moving pieces. I mean, I don't want to play fantasy cabinet for Andy Burnham. I mean, at least not on telly. I can do that privately, but you know.
I think the use of the word fantasy is where it will all go wrong.
No, these are my colleagues.
Who's your fantasy defence secretary?
There are smart people to choose from.
Fantasy defence secretary. Yeah. I put Penny Mordaunt in there. She was brilliant. She wasn't in for very long, and
You're not allowed to choose a Tory at the moment.
She was good, and she carried the sword, and we may be relying on swords again.
Lost her seat.
She did.
We might be relying on swords again. There's no money for anything else, right?
Penny is very good at carrying a sword, but you know we've got a great team of people. There are 422 Labour MPs now, and that's a lot of talent to draw on. I think Andy
you couldn't
Burnham
find a single one to be the Prime Minister when you wanted to get rid of the one you had.
And he's got 421 Labour MPs.
Out of the 420, you needed the one from Manchester to come.
Okay, serious question. Is there public support, do you think, for pouring billions into defence at the expense of other budgets like roads or
and this
green
is a serious
stuff?
question. And actually, I'm not sure that we really, any of us, genuinely knows the answer to that, because the thing about defence is it is essential, but it's essential as a form of deterrent. And the point of it is it succeeds when you don't need to use it, which means that unlike the NHS, which people notice because either you have to go to hospital or your mum needs an operation or whatever it is, and it's either did I get it or did I not get it, with defence, it succeeds best when we don't use it. And that's part of the difficulty for any government, I would say, is bringing the public with you and getting the public to understand the threats that we are definitely living under at the moment, because nobody really wants to hear about scary stuff. And that's why tonight people are really happy, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit of good news. Thank God for Harry Kane. Thank God for Harry Kane.
I wanted to talk about the England cricket team, but OK. I think that that is the problem, is bringing the public with us, is helping everyone to understand in a balanced way without being too scary. Like, we are under threat. We do have to.
If you look at Iran, though, I mean, everybody would have seen, and lots of people know people who live in Dubai.
That is true.
There was, I mean, they had the Iron Dome. Yeah. You ask the question, and there is a chance now of this long-range ballistic missiles, right? It's not that far away, the capability. You ask the question, how would we defend ourselves here if, for example, something like that happened? You saw how brilliant it was in Dubai and the UEA.
I do, I get that.
And nobody thinks, wow, we'd be able to do that. And that's real. You know, it's getting more real.
It is real. I just worry, and I wonder and worry, that people are thinking, yes, but that's a faraway place, it doesn't affect us.
Do you think people are still thinking that, even despite, the evidence of, the Prime Minister's home being firebombed?
I think the polling is showing that more people, and I wouldn't want to put my hand on my heart and swear to you which poll, but I know that some of the polling is showing an increase in public concern. But does that translate into big support for, OK, you can cut my hospital? That is a real choice.
Or my local road.
Or my local school, or whatever it is, or the potholes. Everybody wants the potholes filling, and you know
this is a perennial theme of yours.
I'm obsessed with potholes. Though I do now know some of my favourite ones.
They have given billions. We've all given billions for potholes.
We have.
The problem with potholes is they're only temporary fix. So did we.
No, I remember I'm sure we gave more than
you. I'm sure you do, but I know we got 2 billion.
We're going to have to fact check the potholes.
But you know, it's a lot of. You can do a lot with that, but you know, it never seems.
You, though.
It never seems.
Well,
Well,
that's the
yes.
thing, isn't it?
And actually, it's quite clever now. They're talking about this missing 5 billion, when actually what they're really missing is the other 13 billion, because the very minimum is 28 billion. So I wonder whether it's a sleight of hand to get us all talking about 5 billion.
Focusing on a smaller
billion.
billion.
Actually, it's missing even more.
One of the things that Kemi Badenoch tried to do this afternoon in Prime Minister's Questions was try and draw attention away from the fact that under the Tories, the defences have been hollowed out and the armed services have been hollowed out.
Yeah, but we had to get... You deal with what you have to deal with. We had to get a pandemic. We had to get a vaccine. We spent billions on a vaccine.
I understand that.
You know, right now, the threat level is different than it was when we were there.
The Russian threat.
People weren't going to war, but we had to deal with a pandemic. We dealt with it. You get the war on your watch.
Actually, I think the war started on your watch.
Well, it did, but...
It did. No, it definitely did.
Yeah, it did.
Which is why we increased it to 2.3% and then 2.4% because of that. But then the war in Iran started as well.
And we have increased it.
Yes, it has been increased.
Yeah,
but when you go and ask all of the military top brass, what do we need to do? And they spend a long time coming up with the answer and then say, here it is, and it's 28 billion. And you don't do it. That's the problem. You can't go and ask them and then ignore the answer.
I want to ask you about Andy Burnham's woman problem, because there are a lot of women in the parliamentary party are saying...
the eyelashes, no? We're all jealous.
He's not a female leader. He's not a female leader. That's the important thing.
I've spotted that.
He's now admitted that he isn't, even though his aide said that he was.
Too.
Anyway, the parliamentary party, we are told, are exercised about the fact that there may be more Miliband's in Burnham's cabinet than women if David Miliband comes back.
I mean, all of this is supposition, but I think
definitely know there's going to be more men than women.
We know that there are more women in the Parliamentary Labour Party than at any other time. That's to do with a lot of hard effort by some really stonkingly good, talented, hard-working women. The voice of women is there. It's present in our agenda.
So should there be more women than men in the cabinet?
I think there should be women and men in the front benches and at all ranks. And I think that given that Andy's got an amazing array of talent to choose from, I would expect to see him choose very, very good women for the cabinet, yes.
In the great offices of state, that's the point.
Well, we've already had a female chancellor, we've had female home secretaries, we've had more than one female home secretary.
You haven't had a female defence secretary because the Tories did that. But would that work? Lou Haig as defence secretary?
They win on their skills, and that's part of the beauty of having had
people they're an economist when they're not.
Having a long campaign for many years, which, you know, as chair of Labour Women's Network, I'm very proud of the part we've played in this to make sure that more high-quality women get elected and get to take up their place and get to show the leadership skills that we've seen in them early on. And I'm assuming and I'm hoping that those talents will get recognised. And Andy, I understand, has committed to showing that he recognises the talent from all across the Labour Party.
So Wes Streeting is being tipped for Defence Secretary, but, you know, he doesn't have a sort of... Well,
was it Wes? I don't know. I mean, who tipped him?
I was just making the point that, you know, perhaps he doesn't have defence credentials.
Is he not in your fantasy cabinet?
He's obviously not in our fantasy cabinet, that's for sure.
Cabinet. You think about secret, is it secret?
But my point is, if Wes is being tipped, why not Lou Haig for Defence Secretary, perhaps?
Can you name who's tipping him, Cathy? Because otherwise it's just a rumour,
I'm not going to reveal my sources. I've spoken to several people who've said his name's on the list.
Yeah. Do we think Lou Haig has a mobile phone?
That question.
I just think that these dealing in rumours at the moment is just like we're filling time to wait for Andy.
You can tell because the ones who are getting the bob, they're all getting their hair changed to the Labour front bench bob.
I think that Andy's campaign was run by some brilliant, utterly brilliant women who are giving him great advice, and I'm sure they're working out where they want to put, you know, who's going to get what job. And I think all these rumours, they're just filling time.
Will they be advising him to go for an autumn election, do you think?
I don't know what they'll be advising him to do, but there's no denying... I'm not in the inner circle or even the outer inner circle. I think that if I was, I probably would be there putting people into places, wouldn't I? But with the whiteboard moving post-it notes up and up. Not just a fancy bit they're on. But you made a serious point. So general election, I think those of us who are old enough remember the Gordon Brown syndrome, which is you get made Prime Minister between general elections and you sort of go, shall I, shan't I, and then you don't. And two problems is that you then get dogged by questions of whether or not you've got a mandate. I think he did. He was legitimately leader of the Labour Party. However,
you're talking about Gordon Brown now. Yeah,
and you then go for a general election when you have to in 10, which we then lost. Now,
don't dither, I think, is probably...
Don't dither. Well, I'm not advising him, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Wouldn't rule out an autumn election?
Because if Andy wants a new mandate, a way to get one is a general election. Otherwise, technically, democratically, he has to stick to the general election manifesto from 2024.
He's already lost popularity, though. It's a risk.
It's what happens,
Well,
isn't it?
Well, he hasn't started
It's also a bit of
2 to 11%.
We'll
minus
carry on discussing this in a little bit because the defence plan fallout is sure to feature heavily on our late night programme, The Wrap, tonight from 10 p.m. Here to discuss all of today's big stories and the best of tomorrow's papers, of course, will be political commentator Adam Bolton and former Conservative Special Advisor Anita Boateng. Exploitation, defence and censorship. Ai Weiwei's new exhibition in Manchester has it all. Works on a huge scale explore weapons and the British relationship with China. I spoke to the artist and activist as he prepared for the launch of Button Up tomorrow. Your exhibition there in Manchester, Button Up, looks at 200 years of Chinese and British relations. Just set out for us what you're hoping to achieve.
Well, it's a very tremendous, I would say, a show very packed with history, memory, and also the current situation, and relate to communist, capitalism, colonialism, my personal and my family history. So I really want to have a chance to pack everything together. So it's a one-of-the-kind show, and it's very unique.
And I wanted to ask you about one exhibit in particular, History of Bombs, which, in your words, looks at our human capacity for destruction and warning of the dangers of having weapons capable of reducing civilization to dust and smoke. I mean, this week we've had the Defence Investment Plan, which envisages a quarter of defence spending going to the nuclear deterrent. I just wondered what you made of that investment and whether you see it as, the right way to spend money in the future.
I think anybody still spending money on weapons or to using weapons is directly or indirectly against humanity. We should have a very clear, solid belief all those bombs are designed to destroy. So who we are going to destroy and why we're going to destroy, and this remains a question. It's not only historical, but a current situation, and this is going to be all the weapons going to be used in the future. Nuclear bombs is going to be used. So this is put a great potential of dangers to humanity.
Surely, though, with both Russia and China investing in their nuclear capabilities, we're obliged to do the same, particularly when we're warned that Russia could attack us by 2030.
Well, there's always argument who did what, but still, the result will be the same. Who's going to suffer and who's going to pay the price?
You've paid a heavy price for speaking out, for living your life, really. You were born in China, but you fled in 2015 after clashing with the government there. I wonder how you'd describe China's attitude now.
I think China is moving up and moving up solidly and strongly, and it's not going to disappear in next decades to come. So I think the best way is for the West or for Chinese to have a more global understanding about what humanity is one, why we have to work together. There's no other way.
Did you support the outgoing Prime Minister's visit to China then? And I wonder what you're there in Manchester where the incoming Prime Minister has been mayor for a long time. What would be your message to both the outgoing and incoming Prime Ministers about how to handle China?
I think we are not just handling China, we're handling our own matters. We have to say China inevitably will be part of the world, and Manchester will be inevitably, and the British will be globally involved. So we better find a way to working together, and to find the right way is to speed up the communication, and we need a lot of conversations.
So a lot more of the kind of visits that Keir Starmer made? I
am sure there should be a lot more visitors visiting and also different kind of levels of conversation.
Mm. You said something very interesting. The West is not in a position to accuse China of human rights abuses. I wonder, a lot of people look at what China has done to the Uyghur Muslims, for example, the mass re-education, mass internment. A lot of people might have been struck by what you said and just thought you're underplaying some of the massive abuses created by China.
Well, yes, China has its own problems. It's a historical problem and it's a current situation. But the West can never ignore its own historical problem. And what happens in the West, Russian-Ukrainian war or Israel-Palestine war, there's so many things going on. We cannot use human rights as a bargain chip. We have to always think all humans are created. Basically, we think it's created equal. It's never equal. But still, we have to accept human rights, freedom of speech. Those things are not doing so well in the West.
Mm. I wanted to ask you, if I could, about AI, because you've compared it to the Cultural Revolution in China, a crackdown on expression clearly by the communist government. And I wondered if you thought that governments now, including the UK, are doing enough to take on big tech, to hold them to account.
I think the real danger is not just from a government side. Government, of course, as authority, they always have to do things in their own favor to maintain this kind of control. But besides that, AI or high technology or big companies or majority of this kind of mainstream narrative and education all have some kind of censorship. And what can be talked about, what has to be avoided, and those are really shows potential danger to a civilized society.
How do you protect yourself from that danger? Because you've got a very large following, for example, on Instagram. Do you feel yourself getting sucked into this area almost against your will?
Well, I cannot avoid it only because I'm an artist. What I do is to express myself and trying to establishment some argument and to questioning, to questioning myself. And so this is very basic rights, and I have to do it.
How do you, just explain how you do protect yourself from the kind of, people are getting sort of hooked on social media, and we'll talk about children in a second, but how do you, try and protect yourself from that?
I think to protect yourself, you have to be fully informed and not to be confused by the mass media. You have to say what is truly important to your life, to your children, and to the neighbors you care about. So then it's very easy. We have to stop the war. We cannot promote the war. We have to stop the famine. We cannot just point fingers to the others. We cannot just push out the migrants. We started so many things which is wrong, and we have to sit down and to really find a right solution.
Mm. You've been such an outspoken champion for freedom of speech. I just wonder how you think of the government's banning of social media for under 16s. Do you, because it seems there's a tension there, isn't there? You clearly want to champion freedom of speech, but then a crackdown on social media for under 16s. Do you support it or not?
I don't support any government this kind of hardcore policy. People today are very aware of what's happening. When they're 16, it's pretty old. And you cannot really abandon it. It's just a silly act for government to have this kind of policy.
Even though
all the policy, the policy always have a good excuse to say, oh, that's good for them. I think the government should do something better than that. They should abandon the social media for those adults and for the government officials.
What, to get the government off X?
Yeah, I think those are just tools, has nothing to do with government. And the government is just fully benefit by limited the information, and this is censorship.
So the government should instead get big tech to get its own house in order to stop children being harmed?
They cannot give this kind of hard order. They can suggest, they can, or they can use, I don't know, they can convince people, but they cannot make a law to stop people. This is a totally authoritarian act.
Even when the individuals concerned are children and they don't necessarily have the capacity to protect themselves in the way that you or I do?
Well, the world works as one. The other nations, they're not abandoned the children under 16 from social media. So they will be very imbalanced. If you find things wrong in social media, you should find a way to limit those, use a law or use some kind of suitable discipline, but not just abandon people under 16 to getting onto social media. This is completely ridiculous.
Given the number of countries in Europe that are banning in a similar way, also Australia, do you see it as part of a sort of creeping authoritarianism then?
I think it shows how weak we are, how incompetent, we don't trust our children, we don't trust their judgment, and we don't think they should really growing up in this kind of very wild west condition in the social media.
On this subject of freedom of speech, your exhibition in London 3 years ago was cancelled after you tweeted about the conflict between Israel and Gaza. You said that the sense of guilt around the persecution of the Jewish people had been held against the Arab world, and you said that the Jewish community had a strong influence in the media, finance and culture in the US. You then deleted the tweet. Did you regret it, or did you think the cancellation was justified then or not?
Well, if you talk about the deleting, it's for personal reason, not for my political stance. I believe what I believe, so nobody can change me. Communists cannot change me. Capitalism also cannot change me. So I believe for some personal request, I always care about personal request.
So you stand by the tweet, in essence. You don't think the cancellation was justified?
Of course. I'm a mature person. I would take a full responsibility for whatever I said.
Mm-hmm. So you think the cancellation of the exhibition was unjustified?
I think it's justified only because people are afraid to be affected. And, we're living in a society which damage can be done. So, I don't want, because my attitude damages other people.
Just finally, you returned to China in December for the first time in a decade. Was there joy in that homecoming or a lot of sadness?
I think it's, after all, it's joyful after 10 years being outside of China and finally have a chance to see my 93-year-old mom. She is overwhelmed with my comeback. Of course, I've been heavily watched, and this is the nature of a state, and that nature will never change. I totally understand, and I would accept any kind of, even severe consequence. You have to take responsibility. You have to act out. You have to say, I cannot just speculating. I have to do what I have to do.
Mm. Do you have any hope of political change in China, that you even might make your home there again in future or not?
not maybe in my lifetime, I don't have much time left, but my name cannot really be in social media. I don't have chance to have an exhibition, so I don't have this kind of illusion China will change.
You say you don't have much time left, but I hope you have many years left, and it's a real honour to speak to you. Thank you so much, Ai Weiwei.
Thank you for your kind words.
Well, Burnham and Gillian are still on the sofa. I just want to pick up on what he said on the social media ban. It's very interesting. Strong words: authoritarian, censorship. What do you make of that?
I think there is an argument that he's picking up on, which has been made by other people, such as Ian Russell. Molly Russell's dad has made an argument, actually not the same argument, but he has also argued against the social media ban. And there is...
Saying that big tech should be held to account.
Well, I mean, actually, I think big tech should be held to account for bad behaviours on their platform. And actually, not just bad behaviour, because bad behaviour is bad behaviour, but abusive, criminal, violent behaviour. I think that is important. And I wish we... when I look at some of the things that we're trying to ban, or that we want under 16-year-olds not to see, sorry, by the ban, I don't know if we want them on our platforms anyway. Do we want them for over 16? So
do you
making a valid point.
Do you have a problem, Gillian, from the point of view of that he's talking about the censorship? Banning things is not a very Tory thing to do.
Well, no, and he's consistent, right? He's been consistent, and he knows that once governments start, they can slip into once they start banning things. It is a slippery slope, and it is something that we always have to remind ourselves of. And freedom of speech is really, a core pillar of that. And it struck me as he was talking, actually, the inconsistency, because at the same time, the Labour government are trying to bring in votes for 16-year-olds. It's like you can't go on social media, but the next day you can actually, depend on when your birthday is, you can actually vote for who's going to run the country. So,
although that is 16 plus, I mean,
it is. But if your birthday comes just after a general election, you will be, or just before a general election, you will be voting at that young age, as some lucky people will be. So I think it's about consistency. And the problem with this is it's not thought through. With everything you do in government, you really have to think, will it work? Can I make it work? Can I deliver it? And I think, unfortunately, this has got all of those, it's announcement, it's parents it's very popular with, it costs nothing. I mean, it's perfect from a government perspective, but it won't work. And that's the problem. And we could do many other things. We could make the Online Harms Act work. It's very new. We could stop them taking data from under 16s, under 18s. We could do that, which would mean they would not be as marketable, as much of a commodity for marketing. But we really could do more things that would be more effective, I think.
I think also that Ai Weiwei, who is a deep thinker, and obviously there were some views that he expressed that you picked him up on that I very much don't agree with. But what I admire about the fact that he's putting on this huge immersive exhibition in Manchester is he's taking on big themes. He's taking on, the relationships between big countries and in colonial history and trade, and he's doing it through the medium of art. We want our artists to have difficult, controversial, challenging views. That's one of the things that they're there for.
Yeah, he's free to have those views.
And also
he's free because he wasn't free.
Exactly.
Because he wasn't free. It always means so much more if you felt that.
And I think that
it's not a luxury belief with him.
And I love the fact that he's chosen to use his voice, even when I don't agree with it. I love the fact, for instance, he's chosen to engage with politicians. He's been to Parliament, I think, more than once. I remember hosting him, actually, in one of the committee rooms in Parliament, and it was packed because people are interested in the fact that an artist who has been repressed and is now free...
And he's not afraid.
...is using that.
He's not afraid.
No, he's not.
Right. Well, the Prime Minister now, a different story, has agreed to meet British survivors of abuse by Jeffrey Epstein, who are calling for a public inquiry. They've been speaking to our political correspondent, Ali Fortescue.
Final question.
It's a question Keir Starmer has never had to directly answer in public.
We are joined in the gallery by Lisa Phillips, a British survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific and despicable trafficking and abuse.
Until now.
Will the Prime Minister please commit to meet with Lisa and the other British survivors and commit to what is needed, a full public inquiry?
It is really important that we keep our focus on violence against women and girls, and I'll make sure the meetings she requested are set up.
Lisa Phillips grew up in England. This was her in her early 20s on her way to Jeffrey Epstein's private island where everything changed.
Hi Lisa, you were watching that from the gallery. How was it?
Well, it was really emotional, just because I'm representing not only, UK survivors, but global survivors my survivor sisters from the United States. It's always emotional because we're getting one step closer every time.
Her fight now for a public inquiry has led her here to Westminster. She's met, among others, the Speaker, the former Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, Ed Davey of the Lib Dems, Mims Davies of the Conservatives, Hannah Spencer of the Greens. Many were here today. The Prime Minister, who said violence against women and girls is a core mission, is next on her list.
Lisa and the British survivors deserve that apology from Keir Starmer directly because it was him who appointed Peter Mandelson as ambassador. They deserve that apology. They deserve to hear that from him directly.
A lot of people say that, you know, public inquiries are very costly, very long. Is that definitely the right way forward?
Well, they're right. They can take a while and they can cost some money. But this is a scandal that goes to the heart of the establishment. It looks like government in the past may have been involved in this.
Public inquiries can take years and cost millions. Think of the Hillsborough infected blood COVID inquiries. The decision is one for the Prime Minister, and that is not going to be Keir Starmer for much longer. Have you been talking to Andy Burnham about this?
I have, and I know Lisa has too. He would be happy to meet with her. I mean, it's something he's keen to do. As I said, that commitment to social justice is within him, and I do have faith that he will follow through on that.
And what about Andy Burnham? Has he been open to talking to you, do you think?
Well, surprisingly, Andy Burnham has been the most supportive. Yeah.
So you're hoping to meet him at some point?
I think if he becomes the next Prime Minister, I think we're going to have his support.
In Westminster with a direct plea and growing cross-party support. Whether or not to back that plea will be a question, almost certainly, for Andy Burnham. Ali Fortescue, Sky News.
Let's talk to Thangam and Gillian about this. Gillian, do you think there should be a public inquiry or not?
I was just listening to it. I hadn't heard it before. I mean, certainly the Prime Minister should meet with the victims for sure. But most of these crimes and all of this action, all of it took place pretty much in the States, in the US or on this island. So I'm kind of thinking...
Well, no, that's not quite the case. And, you know, the British police have been asked to look into it.
They have for particular incidences. But I think the vast majority of these crimes took place in the US. And I think most of these victims, that lady there, you know, she was in the US. She was going to this island in the US.
Very brief thought from you.
I think what victims need most is justice and to be heard.
How are they going to get that?
And that I'm not always convinced that a public inquiry is the way to get either of those things.
Got to end it there, but thank you both very much for your time on the sofa on many different themes tonight. And we didn't even really talk about the football much. But before we go, last year it was all about Oasis, and this year the hot ticket is for something even older. Because some have been waiting for 9 hours online as part of the mad scramble to bag tickets to see, wait for it, the Bayeux Tapestry. It will be, of course, the first time that it's been on display in the UK since it was made almost 1,000 years ago. The exhibition of the 70-metre-long tapestry, you can see it spooling here, will start in September at the British Museum, and it will go on until July next year, so there is plenty of time to queue. That's all from us tonight. Sarah Jane's up next, but thank you to Thangam and Gillian, my sofa guests, and all my guests tonight. I'll be back tomorrow again at 7 p.m. See you then.